Bit bop.
Let's do it.
What's up, team? I'm here with Andy Czekalski. Got it?
Got it.
And we're doing an interview. Andy has been with MP for 3 years now. He's one of our rock star distance coaching clients. We just finished up what tournament?
Ocean City Beach Classic.
The OC Beach Classic with Humiliswag. We brought him on, and it was good. First place finish. So we wanted to tell a little bit of Andy's story with MP and his come up as an ultimate player. We don't really have a name for this show yet. Andy's over here drinking tea because he's not a caffeine drinker.
Not as much as you.
Yeah, I mean, I go hard on the coffee. Maybe we'll call it Tea Time with Timbo. I think they'd like that.
It's a solid one.
Solid podcast name.
There it is.
Cheers.
Ooh.
For the record, I'm drinking Hippie Blend coffee, which is a light roast. Do you know why we go light roast?
No.
Light roast because it has more caffeine. The dark roast is roasted longer, less caffeine. We want more caffeine.
That makes perfect sense for you.
Yes. And I added the Onnit MCT oil, which is just delicious. So let's create a little context here. You are a former football player, power lifter, turned ultimate player.
Yep.
You live in Milwaukee. You're a handler. Why don't we start by telling our community a little bit about your history as an athlete and how you found Ultimate.
Okay, so like you said, in high school, 2006, 2010, I played football and I powerlifted. Went to school, UWM, University of Wisconsin, Milwaukee, shout out. During that time, I got really into disc golf, and I really wasn't playing too many team sports. I wasn't lifting a ton. And then around 2009, I got like the itch to I want to go out and run around the field. I wonder if there's like a league in Milwaukee that I can go play. So I signed up for the spring league, and I got put with the right person on the right team. Good friend of mine, Andy Patton, kind of just led me down the road to being an ultimate player. And from there, it just kind of blossomed. I played league for a few years, suffered a few injuries due to probably not training at all. And then 2012, I suffered a bruised meniscus in my right knee, and it made it really hard to play disc golf because I pivoted on my right knee a lot, and that just really was not working for me. So I got turned on to playing club mixed at the time for Milwaukee's Beast, and it just kind of sparked from there. That's when the passion really just started for me, and I really always wanted to be playing Ultimate and being getting in shape for Ultimate. Everything became about playing Ultimate at that point.
Right. Most disc golfers throw backhand. Did you have a backhand but you didn't have a forehand to start? Or did you have both?
I started out throwing forehand because a lot of disc golfers, you can get a lot more snap on a disc throwing forehand to start, but you run into a lot of issues with your elbow, and the distance just doesn't compare. So once you learn a backhand, and you can get your whole body and your hips and your shoulder moving in sync to drive that disc through across your chest, and you can just start blasting it out there. I had a few friends that could throw 600 feet with a disc golf disc. I only maxed out at about 450 feet, but that was still a good throw because I was throwing very overstable discs that I could control at a consistent distance.
450 feet, wow. Is the forehand or backhand more accurate in disc golf?
It kind of depends what you're looking for. I would probably say backhand because when you get into disc golf, you have to realize there's different discs that do different things, and you can really work on shaping your shot. And sometimes those guys who actually throw pretty far, if they don't have a short game, it doesn't work. But some of those more technical throwers, especially when you get into the woods, you can just really shape a shot and have that nice S curve and just throw an understable disc and just spot it somewhere. They have an advantage too. It's really a wide spectrum of what you can do to be successful in disc golf.
Yeah, because you have to go around trees. I always play with lids just because I'm it's a completely different pattern. And whenever I play with disc golf discs and then I go back to a lid, that's what the disc golfers call it when they see me out there playing with just a 175. My pattern's off. It's harder. It's much like I do a lot of MTAs and freestyle, so I'm always lifting the disc up. And then when I go to play beach ultimate, it's
floaty.
Why am I throwing air bounces every time? It's well, I've conditioned that pattern.
Yeah.
So with disc golf, I never really have gone down that rabbit hole because I think it's a pretty deep rabbit hole. Especially hearing all this understable, stable. I don't really understand that.
And the lingo going between ultimate and disc golf always throws me off too, because in disc golf, You have hyzers, which is a shot that goes up and fades this way, fades back to the right, goes to the right, fades to the left. And you have anhyzers, which goes up to the left and fades back right.
Right.
And ultimate, you have IO and OI. So I would use the terminology different. Like that would just kind of give me away as a disc golfer first. And once I learned, all the different throws for ultimate, then the lingo started transitioning over.
Nice. Now let's talk a little bit about your history with powerlifting and the transition through starting up with me in 2013, and how that powerlifting background kind of, I know you went through a pretty big shift in mentality because it's functional performance training. We're going to do a lot of single leg work.
Yeah.
We're not going to always push for 100% lifts. So first tell our team, what is powerlifting as a sport?
Powerlifting as a sport is a combination of 3 exercises. It's back squat, bench press, and deadlift. And at a competition, you'd get 3 attempts at each lift, and you can up your weight each time. There's judges that actually critique your form. You have to hit certain points throughout your lift. Like I actually got certified as a state level powerlifting judge in Wisconsin too. So I actually judge some meets. But you have to, for squat, you have to make sure you're first listening to commands. You're going down deep enough, which is taking that hip crease below the top of your knee. You're coming up with control. You're holding yourself, and you're waiting for the command to rack it. Bench is kind of the same thing. They actually tell you when to press now in powerlifting, which is pretty tough. Like back when I lifted, you had to actually you had to have a 1-second pause. It was on yourself to kind of figure out how long that pause needed to be. The basis is you have to show control at the bottom. So if you can show control, bring it down quickly. They were just trying to prevent that, a bump off your chest or like a heave or like anything like that.
But that's how I see a lot of the heaviest bench pressers bench. They bounce off of that elasticity. It's like a stretch reflex almost.
Yeah, and in competition, that's not going to qualify.
So you have to stop. You have to do an isometric hold and then push out concentrically?
Yeah. You have to show control. Like the faster you can bring it, I don't want to say faster, but the smoother you can bring it down and show control at the bottom, and so you're not wobbling, you're not sinking it in, you're not bouncing it. As soon as you bring it down, that referee will give you the press command, and you got to bring it up and hold it. And even back when I lifted, the rules have changed too when I lifted, because you had to bring everything up and lock out evenly. Like your elbows had to lock out at the same time. Now they've gotten way more relaxed on that. You can kind of almost, I don't say ratchet it up, because if it's an extreme, you can still call somebody on it, but you don't want to basically you can come up and a little uneven and in lockout.
Right. Well, then what? So I follow Mark Smelly Bell, Super Training Gym, just a brilliant performer in powerlifting.
Yeah.
And he makes something called the slingshot, which is, have you seen the slingshot?
Is that what the super band's on the bench?
It's like you put this thing around your biceps and you take it down, and then I guess it helps you push it back up.
Okay.
It's something, and I've just figured that they would be wearing those in competition because it would allow that elasticity to get it back up. I mean, I know I can bench press heavier if I actually kind of bounce a little bit.
In competition, other than high school, you can wear what's called a bench shirt, which is a shirt design. I mean, when you put it on, your arms are like this. So it's kind of the same thing. You bring it down, and it helps you push that back up. It can add up to 20 pounds on your bench.
Right. So I was quite interested in working with Andy when we first started out, because you had that background. We have done so many distance coaching calls over the years, and generally with a lot of clients, they don't really, I don't want to say contribute, but they just have some basic questions, and then they kind of want to get off and go back to training. But you always brought ideas, and I think a lot of that is because of that background. So I'd be like, okay, I've got 30 minutes for this distance coaching call, and then it would be an hour and 15 minutes later. I'm like, dude, you're the man, but I gotta go. Or you'd be at work. You're like, man, I just used up my whole lunch break. So that was interesting, and that's why I think you can bring a lot of value here with some of what you've learned through this transition from powerlifting to functional performance training. So maybe we just start there. Kind of, where were you at in your career? How did you hear about MP? And how do we get started?
So I first heard about MP in 2013, obviously. I was coming off of consecutive years with minor knee injuries. And like I said, 2012, I bruised the meniscus in my right one. 2013, just after club tryouts, I partially dislocated my kneecap. My foot got stuck in the mud while pivoting to a backhand, and it just popped out. I threw a score on that play as well. So
for the record,
I threw a score, and I was wearing tights, and I really didn't see it. I just saw like a lump on the opposite side of my knee. I was like, that's not right, and I just pushed it over.
Is that the same knee that got bruised up from disc golf?
No, that was my left knee. So two like knee injuries in each, like one in each knee, and I had strained a hamstring in an overnight tournament again. I had some hamstring issues back when I first started playing. I was like, I need to figure out like how this sport is affecting my body and what I need to do to get ready for that. And at that time, you released the Foundation, your eBook.
The first eBook.
And I bought that and read through it in like a day. I mean, it doesn't take that long, but like I read through that, and I was like, this is what I need. But as a lot of people I've heard when they read your book or your first earlier products, it's like, okay, this is great. How do I implement? Like, what do I do?
It's all conceptual, yeah.
And I was like, screw it. I'm emailing this guy. Like, I had no idea. It was like, he's probably he's super important and busy. Like, who knows what this guy has going on? But I'm going to email him. Hopefully I get a response and we can try and figure something out. So I emailed you. I think within a day you had responded back. And we had a few conversations back and forth. And finally you were just like, I think you're a good candidate for our distance coaching program. I want to do movement screening and then we can get going. And from there, like, it really just kind of exploded for me, and my eyes were open to a lot of different things. And one of the biggest things for me was that bilateral movements versus single leg movements.
Right.
And the curing those asymmetries that Ultimate is causing, and fixing my hamstring injuries as well. Like those are the two main things that really stood out to me. Is like, Ultimate is that asymmetrical sport. We strive for symmetry with our functional performance training. And training single-legged or doing single-arm lifts and really trying to balance your body out to make sure everything when you're actually playing Ultimate is working together was one of the largest like aha moments for me for sure. And then curing my hamstrings and one of the biggest things you said to me, and I think you quoted somewhere, like, glutes are the engine, hip extension is the key. That like revolutionized, like I realized why my hamstrings were getting injured and what I needed to do to like activate it before I played and how to lift to like prevent it even further.
Beautiful. And since then, have we had hamstring and knee issues?
Zero. I've had zero injuries since then. Like, I mean, I know, it's hard to say, like, there's a lot of factors that go into getting injured, but
like playing an Ultimate tournament in the middle of the night.
Yeah, that can happen. But being prepared to like jump on one foot, land on one foot, activating your glutes, being able to sprint and start and stop and change direction, and not like injure yourself on the simple parts of the game, like the core parts of the game, and just being available. I think that's become one of my favorite sayings. It's like the best ability is availability, and that's one of the things I've gained the most from MP is like I'm able to step up and play and like grow my role in the field. Because obviously when I started in 2012, like I wasn't like a star player. I was a role player, if that, at a team that I was thrust into more of responsibility near the end because we had some people drop out or get hurt, and it just kind of as the more I spent time with MP and training, the more I was able to play, the more my role grew on teams that I was involved in, up until the point where I was a captain, and then for 2 years, and then I took this year off from being a captain to focus on my own personal development. And between training and being able to play a lot of sport-specific stuff, like I feel like I've grown as a player tremendous over the past 3 years.
And that was really neat to see you go through that transition, because I remember, I believe 2013 you did not captain.
I did not. 2014 was the first time.
Yeah, and I remember having those calls with you. It's like, okay, are we ready to take on this leadership role? Because, and I want you to talk a little bit about the challenges, anytime that you take on captainship, I mean, any good leader has to put his tribe first. Your team is your tribe. So you've got to be able to really invest in people and put them ahead of you. So that makes it a little bit harder to actually develop your own game, because you're dealing with, oh, this person's upset about playing time. Oh, I have to organize this. Oh, the next round is this time. And I know that you really did grow as a leader, as a person during that time. And I remember having talks. I remember you called me one day and you're just like, can we just talk about mental toughness and just growth in Zen mode and how to balance this and like what to do between rounds. So I think a lot of people, really aspire to be captains, but it's not for everybody. So tell us a little bit about kind of your your experience going through that?
Yeah, it was kind of, I was basically put into the role. I didn't really like win a vote. It was kind of like, hey, you should be captain next year. You're good at organizing things. Because I think the year before I was coordinating hotels. And it's like, I guess usually people associate being a captain with good organization, good organization and logistics skills. So I was lucky enough to have a good ultimate mind as my co-captain, and my friend Mike Morrison, who's also been like a good training partner over the years.
What's up, Mike?
Helped me kind of grow, and he brought a lot of intensity and ultimate IQ to help. And then some of the other teammates, we would delegate out some responsibilities. Like in my second year as captain, we had a lady step up as captain, Austin Pruka, who actually made Heist this year and made nationals. So shout out to her. She came on and she brought a lot of energy, and she took over the logistics, and it allowed me to be a leader and more in the second year, for sure. And especially we've suffered kind of a bigger defeat in 2014 and didn't make regionals. Like we had just kind of a blow up on a Sunday, and it was like a low point. And I remember talking to you, it's like, I can't let this be my legacy as like a captain. Like we got to come together. I got to figure out a way to like improve myself as a player in the off season, get things ready for the season, and then in season I need to be ready to just lead and not necessarily like worry about whether I'm going to be hurt or things like that. So that was one thing I took on, and then just being a leader and being kind of working on that Zen jam continuing that you've talked about in the past. Like at what times do we need to be really intense? What times do we need to be focused? And where's that area in the middle? Like where do those things fall? And there were some tough times, but I think working on the mental toughness portion of it, like working with you, and even just getting that confidence in myself as I became a developing player helped. But some of like the things you'd run into as a captain, like how do you get 26 other people to buy in and commit to what your vision is for the team? And how do you even running workouts or things like that, I'd want to incorporate the MP stuff. Like how do you get people to buy in? Like the only way I was able to sell it is how I was doing on the field, how I was staying healthy and being available to play. So those are a lot of challenges that came into being a captain, which is kind of why this past year I stepped away. It's like I really want to develop myself and become a higher level ultimate player, and I think I've succeeded so far. We'll see what the next year brings, but I just look forward to keep pushing.
Nice. So one of the great things that Andy has done with distance coaching is with a lot of my clients, I say, if you can make, the more videos that you make, the more feedback that you're going to get. And Andy really took this to heart because he started his own YouTube channel, which I always encourage. Like all clients send over videos. They can be unlisted, they can be public. Some clients have started a blog just to kind of write about the process. And I love that because it's kind of like a yearbook of your athletic journey.
Yeah.
But Andy, all of Andy's videos are public, started a YouTube, and you crushed it. I mean, you were sending over at some point like 10 videos a week. And we got a good little groove because most phases are about 4 weeks.
Yep.
And you would send over the videos during week 1 or 2, which would give you time to correct your form and get it really grooved out before week 4. And then when I saw the really good technique in week 4, then I would say, okay, we're ready for the next phase. And I was much better able to program customized for you because I saw that. And now your YouTube videos, I mean, you're up to what, 300 videos on?
I think 450.
450?
Yeah. There's some videos of like doing some speed and agility stuff too, which was also fun to do.
Right, and that was an interesting transition that we went, the first, I think, year was only strength and power stuff. And then you were always pushing me to evolve as a coach. So you're like, hey, can you add the speed and agility component to the programming? And I'm like, well, we haven't made that part of the offering yet, but you were the first one, I believe, the first ever MP distance coaching client to get the customized speed and agility program.
Yes, and I remember you telling me this story. It's like it was so cool to sit there with AJ and like, dude, this guy is taking what we're doing here, and it's like he's applying, he's working through, and we get to watch him like his progression too. So I always took that to heart. It was really cool to be the first person to go through and do that and just help you evolve as your program.
And you did, absolutely. I mean, you're a pioneer to this, and you've seen me come up and develop, and we continue to develop and push, and it's awesome. I always think, like, this is just the beginning.
Yeah.
And now you're a Humiliswag athlete with AJ, Goose, and I, and
that was truly, like, I felt very honored to be a part of that. Like, you're talking about Goose Helton, like, shout out to Goose. He's been really cool this whole week I've been here. But I mean, that's a world's level play. Like, he's won worlds, and it was kind of cool to be on the same team and work the same something like him. But going back to the videos, like, I mean, when I first started, you told me the more videos I make, the more feedback I'm gonna get. And I was like, well, if I'm like, obviously distance coaching isn't like a free thing.
You're paying good money.
Yeah,
Might as well get your money's worth.
So that's how I was like, if I'm making videos, this guy's gonna watch me make a lot of videos. So I would, like, even when I started, I think I made a video week 1 and then week 3. So I was like doing 2 sets of videos, and you know, everybody might feel awkward the first couple of times in the gym. Like, I'm sure you went through too. Like, what is this guy doing with the camera? Like, why is he doing this? I was just using my phone too. I would balance it on my foam roller or set something with some weird janky setup. To, like, it's probably some weird angles. I'd always be conscious about crotch shots, and it's like I would just set it up and like, I don't care what these people in the gym think of me. I need to film this. Like, this is my development. Like, the only one that's going to be in control of this is me. Like, I can't worry about what other people are thinking.
Yeah, you took ownership over your development.
Yeah.
Huge.
So I just kept making them, and I've gotten some interesting amount of followers from it. I don't even know if like people have found it, like YouTube searching, or you've sent them out to people as examples, but I've gained a little bit of a following. Not that I really created the channel for that, but it's been kind of cool to have other people just randomly recognize, like, hey, keep grinding. Like, someone sent me a message like, just keep grinding at it.
Right.
I was like, I'm going to keep grinding at it. It's great. But I think my ultimate motivation, like, whether it wasn't like, you know, the fact that I was paying for distance coaching or that I needed to make videos, is that I didn't want to let you down. Like, I don't know what it was. There's a mentality in my head. It's like, Tim's was like nice enough to let me into this program, or like offer me this opportunity. I don't want to squander that. So I need to keep pushing so he like can show this program works, and like he's like following his dream, and I want to make sure that he's seeing like this actually works. And that was a big thing for me.
Mutual accountability, and I think it's so cool to see the process though, because everybody wants the quick fix. You know, like somebody just tweeted in yesterday, like, hey, I've been lifting for a bunch of years. Can I skip phase 1 of program 1 so that I can go right to the, 8 reps of concentric movement? Nobody wants to do the eccentric work, the isometric work, the most important work to build your foundation. Yeah. It takes time, and often, reality is it's not fun. It's not always fun, because in order to improve, you have to do more of what you're bad at and less of what you're good at. And a lot of people get into ultimate because they're like, this is just fun, I could just chase plastic and have fun. But if you want to go to the next level, you gotta get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah, and starting off with Program 0 like we did, like, I look at things like we were doing leg lowers as part of the main exercise, and now that's worked its way up to just our warm-up. And there's things you have to work through and develop that base knowledge of patterns and even correcting your asymmetries before you can move up to that thing. Like, that is something that even when I've had friends that are like, hey, can I start lifting with you? I had 2 friends, like Mike Morrison again, and my friend J-Dub, Josh Wilson, both started kind of working out with me because they saw what I was doing and they wanted to do it. And I was in like phase 7. And I'm like, I can't jump you guys in here because there's so many movements you guys need to learn before we even get up to this point. So I started them at Program 0. Like, I was, it was kind of fun because I got to be the coach at a little point, so it helped emphasize things when I was doing my programs. And obviously I talked to you about it before. I was just like, hey, I'm going to start programming things for my friends or having them work out with me. It's more of like I needed just people to keep pushing me.
Right.
And I needed to get those guys up to a level. It wasn't like, I don't want to be like, endorsing, one person do distance coaching and come back and like give it to your friends. That's not how it works. But it was something that I needed to do to just keep pushing myself. And like being able to teach other people and like learn it more myself really helped develop that baseline of knowledge. And it's been great ever since, like just really being able to understand those key patterns and how they develop and progress throughout into the triphasic programs. I mean, especially when you're talking about eccentric, concentric, isometric, like those are hard. Like you talk to Goose, you talk to anybody, like going through that isometric phase, like day 3, where you're sitting there trying to do an isometric push-up and like then isometric like chop and lift, like that's hard. Like it's not fun. If you don't eat right before that, Mike, you can get sick and like not be able to finish the workout. So it's kind of one of those things where the nutrition part plays into it too, of make sure you're fueling your body, what you're putting in your body, and how it's actually going to progress to the ultimate field.
And the eccentric work, isometric work as well, makes you super sore. So then you have to add in all the rolling, the stretching, everything to make sure that you're ready for that next workout. And during our eccentric isometric phases are 3 times a week. So you've got to get yourself turned around quickly.
The body work process of the warm up, like, you know, it's never been more true what you say about where does the warm up end and the workout begin once you get into those phases, because like you're sore, and even to just do like an internal hip stretch, like in the 4-way hip stretch, like, you know, ow, like at times in some of those ones, like I can't move, like I don't want to move, but I need to keep going. And even when we first started getting into the SMR work and the start, like I'd never foam rolled before, like I felt like a goon rolling around on a foam roller, like does this look right? Thank God my like now fiance then girlfriend was there to be like, yeah, you need to smooth this out, and we need to make sure we're hitting your IT bands and doing things to make sure that you're not tight, because like, I mean, I realized like through our talks and just through other things, like I had tight IT bands, they were pulling on my knee and on my hamstring, and if I wasn't activating my glute, like I was getting pulled in so many different ways, and that resulted in my hamstring injuries. And you know, you get a lot of players who get a hamstring injury and they'll rest it and they won't do much work to, you know, fix them. Like they'll try and work their hamstring to fix it, and that's not what we need to do. You need to work your glutes, you need to work your hips, and realize what is actually how are you driving yourself when you're running, and kind of just those enlightening things, those aha moments as we talk about, where those have made the biggest difference and been huge for me.
Now that's a good transition to CrossFit and how a lot of, you know, when we talk about the eccentric work, the isometric work, moving through things slow, so many athletes are just so conditioned that we want to be fast and we don't want to do anything slow. So CrossFit's great for that, because it's like, let's just do a bunch of Olympic lifting, let's do wall balls, let's just do all this concentric explosive training, and you know what? It feels good and it's fun and it releases all these good, positive, feel-good hormones, and now you slap a CrossFit name on it and you open a bunch of, you know, you make it a cheap opening cost to open a box, and, you know, everybody's doing CrossFit. And I watch the athletes that I know are very big CrossFitters, I watch them change direction, and it's clear that they don't have that ability to absorb force because they never do any eccentric work. So, and I know you have a couple friends that are big CrossFitters, like, what's your kind of take on this whole CrossFit and ultimate? So what's your take on the ultimate CrossFit phenomenon?
I'll say this, like CrossFit, if you're doing nothing and then going to CrossFit, you're going to see improvement, because, you know, from going to 0 to something is better than not doing anything at all to prepare to get on the ultimate field. CrossFit gives you that instant gratification, because you said you get to go do the Olympic lifts, you get to go do those fun exercises, you're with a group, there's competition, like there's a short amount of time you're getting into, but you have to get this workout done. But where are we correcting asymmetries? And that's my thing. Like, you know, you can be sitting there doing a ton of wall balls, but if your right leg does more work than your left leg, like where you're not balancing yourself out. So you get on the ultimate field, eventually that's going to catch up to you where you're going to pop something, and you know, there probably are people out there that do CrossFit and they go and they play well in ultimate and they have no problems. Like they're great athletes and their body works well and they're not going to result in any injuries. But I think your program helps you understand why those injuries occur, how to prepare to prevent them, and preventing them, and then future care of, you know, continuing that like progress towards being a functional athlete.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's a great example with the wall balls. I mean, the classic example we always get is when you pivot, you turn that right toe out. So it's very easy to, when a ball is coming down and you got to catch it, to just go to that same pattern we've been doing, and the right toe goes out and you shift into your right hip and you blast up and you're overusing that side. And then you go out and you're doing something like a sprint and it's like left foot contact, pretty good. Right foot contact, toe's been conditioned to be out to the side, and it's been doing more work, so it's more tight, and that can shift injuries over to the left side because it's not as developed, all the way upstream to low back pain, to all sorts of things. And it's unfortunate because just a lot of people just want the quick fix, but I mean, Andy's right, it's better than nothing. Like, I would rather have an athlete learning the Olympic lifts, squatting, getting in there, you're going to improve. It's just a matter of, are we talking about best practice? Are we talking about peak performance? Yes or no? If we're talking about fun and community and all that, go do CrossFit, but don't complain when you hurt yourself or when you don't have a long career. The sooner you get into this, the sooner you just buy into eccentric training, isometric training, and just have the mental fortitude to understand delayed gratification, to understand that you have to do this work, the better.
I think the best example like that I can think of too is just like misconceptions that ultimate players, or a lot of people that start early or just want to get out there and play, especially like college players that I've seen, warm-ups. Like I get made fun of at times back in Milwaukee for like when I'm on my teams, like I spend more time probably warming up, in the morning than our team total does. Like I will get up and start rolling and doing those things, those maintenance things that just get you ready to play are so important. And if I could just give one piece of advice like to any ultimate players, like take that time to warm up and get your body ready for competition, and you're going to see so many results come just from that. It's going to be like unbelievable.
It's tough though, because a lot of athletes haven't even learned how to foam roll, and then when they learn how to foam roll, they haven't recognized that, oh, I can also use a lacrosse ball, or I could use a bigger ball, or a PVC pipe, because, oh, I'm rolling my calves, but I'm rolling it on a really soft roller. I'm not getting anything. Yeah. So why don't I use a soft roller on quads and then have a PVC pipe for calves? And then, oh, I have this trigger point on the outside of my calf. Well, maybe a lacrosse ball would go in there. So the SMR world, the decreasing tissue density world, that's a relatively big learning curve, because it's about learning your body, where your hot spots are. So that's piece number one. And then we have to teach athletes how to stretch, which means, do you understand contract, relax? Can you do that? Do you understand reciprocal inhibition? And that's a foreign concept to a lot of athletes. I remember at Worlds last year, I was stretching out a Seattle Riot player who is a very, very accomplished athlete. And I lay her on her back and I put her leg up and I say, okay, now we're going to stretch your hamstring. So push into me with your leg and squeeze your quad. Boom, squeeze her quad. Boom, I take up the slack 2 more inches. 3 more times. Boom. And she gets into this big range of motion and we do both sides. She's like, man, I feel great. That's the first time I've heard of that contract, relax thing. And I'm like, it was always so surprising to me, because many of these elite ultimate players, they make it so far. But to me, contract, relax is one of just the most fundamental concepts in movement, in training. So like when you say warm up, there's so much more to it, because there's the roll, there's the stretch, and then we have to go into activations and we have to cue, hey, make sure that you're on your heel and all these things, the mobility drills. A lot of times people don't want to, it can be overwhelming. It needs to be broken down. And that's one of the biggest things that we struggle with, is like how to present this stuff, because it is the right thing to do. But we don't want people to get frustrated because it's just too much.
Yeah, and I go back to the times when I was a captain and I would run through longer warm-ups, and you have to think about we're using practice time to go through warm-ups, and we're doing a lot, I had feedback. It was like, hey, we spend a lot of time warming up. Like, should we be, spending more time doing a drill or doing this? Like I said, like I've said before, the best ability is availability, and that was one of the things I wanted to stress. But going back to your stretching comment, I think it was on Future, or I'll figure you said this, but it stuck with me. It's like, if you think about stretching something when it comes to SMR, like tie a knot in a rubber band, and like you can stretch one end, you can stretch the other end, but that knot's still gonna be there. Like you need to work those things out in order to get that really good. Like you gotta take it from beef jerky to filet mignon, like from that process, in order to get like that really good stretch and be like not have to worry about those things coming back to bite you. Like that always stuck with me. And then doing the magic trick with the lacrosse ball and like stretching your traps, like just the range of motion you can get by like rolling on the lacrosse ball a little bit and showing the difference. Like that's how like I would demonstrate it to people, and that hopefully the light can turn on from those little things, and that those stuck with me for a while.
So let's build on the speed and agility kind of implementation, because one of the things that you said is when you do a long warm up, when you take the time to teach a full warm up, a lot of people are like, man, are we going to warm up this whole practice, or are we going to play with Frisbees? And your comment is like, well, I want everybody to be healthy so that we can be available to play after sectionals, going into regionals, whatever the tournaments are, Sundays, last round of the day.
Yep.
That's the most important thing. So we do need to learn this warm-up. And that can be a challenge because a lot of players just want to come out and just play with Frisbee. And it's like, you're talking about like taking the time to undo that bump. That's a very zen thing to do. Like a lot of people, hey, I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to go out to the field, woo, Frisbee. And it's like, oh, well, I really kind of need to go into zen mode, find my diaphragmatic breath, roll out that bump, give it the time, and really take your time to get to jam mode. And a lot of athletes just they're not interested in that. That and also our MP agility stuff, the IFP, the OFP, the skips, the crossovers, the jab steps, has a little bit of a learning curve. You know, doing a crossover, getting that toe drag. A lot of athletes at clinics or that I start working with, they get frustrated because I can't do this. You know, so I remember another one of our Rockstar clients, Jules, who was out with Seattle Freeze. She co-founded Seattle Freeze team. She started distance coaching with me around the same time as you. So it was quite interesting because I was always jamming with Andy and I'd get on calls and jam with Jules. And I'm like, man, you guys are going through the same thing right now because it was the same time in the season. You're like, how can we implement the speed and agility stuff? I'm like, let's get on a call together and work through this together and feed off of ideas. So comment a little bit on that process.
I think it was fun just to collaborate with someone out there that was going through the same process as me and trying to implement the same things, and just being able to bounce ideas off each other was fun. Like I was at the time in 2014 when I was really trying to implement things, I would have a day of practice where it was more speed and agility focused. We would do ladders, we would do 10 touch shuffles, and we're just working on those IFP, OFP movements, like the small things. We've run a few serpentines and things too, and then I'd have a day where I think I was calling it my Rise Up or my Ben Wiggins day, where we focus more on
Kung
Fu throwing or sport-specific training, and that worked out well. There was a lot of effort on me to put together practices and stuff like that, so in 2015 I kind of shifted away from that a little bit and trying to just combine everything together. But being able to work with Jules and just kind of, we'd have a few side conversations on Facebook and just try and, what can we do to help people understand this and buy into this, and how are we programming this as the common question is like, we're focusing this whole practice on speed and agility. When are we going to, where we need to be throwing freezies, we need to be working on our skills, like how is this going to make us better ultimate players? And I think you look at the work that you put in with Ironside and Brute Squad that's paying off now, and that's some of the things that I'm sure there's practices where they've drilled on sport-specific stuff, but there was workouts there's plenty of videos out there to show how much work they were putting in with you during your time there.
I didn't let them touch a disc for about 8 weeks. Show me you can do a crossover. Show me you can do a jab step. Show me you can do a jackhammer pattern. Show me you understand thigh separation. We got to do that first before we can ever play with Frisbees.
Yeah.
And the reality is, I started with Ironside and Brute Squad in 2012, and I was actually shocked that these athletes had no idea of these concepts because they had worked with strength coaches in the past, speed coaches, and I'm coming in, I'm like, okay, we're just gonna check off crossover jab step, thigh separation, jackhammers, and move right on. Nope, it took a long time to get them through that, and eventually, and the only place that I added discs was when eventually we got to goose cone drills. I would let them throw discs between reps, and I'd be like, okay, rep number 1 minute rest, I want flat backhands. Okay, rep number 2, flat forehands, outside in, inside out. And that worked well. And we would even, if they were dropping the disc, they would get punished. They would have to run another one, generally, unless it was crumbling. So, yeah, that was important because that's why they were hiring me for that. It was different because at their weekend practices, they would do an FPT warm-up, but then they would go, they wouldn't do a ton of serpentines or anything. We had a time and place for the FPT stuff and a time and place for practice, which that's an elite team. A lot of athletes putting in a lot of work. Brute Squad now 2-time national championships. Ironside finally won.
Awesome.
And those kind of athletes are so dedicated. That's very, sometimes different than players that only have enough time to practice on the weekends or one time a week.
Right, and I'm just going to kind of get into what I've felt my story with MP has been I'm not a nationals level player. Like, I haven't been to nationals. I've watched nationals. That was fun. But I'm someone who, when I started out, I was a regional level mixed player. And I wanted to know how I can get my body in a better position for me to try and elevate myself. And I still needed to balance, like, you know, understanding my X's and O's and getting my sport-specific training in. Like, that's all part of, like, the circle of, like, training, you know, for Ultimate that, you know, I've committed to. But, you know, the MP is not just for elite athletes. Like, to me, everybody in Ultimate could benefit from some part of this, or hopefully majority, all of it will benefit from some of it. Like, I was a regional level player. I still am. I'm working towards getting to that level, but I just want everybody to know that, like, this isn't something just for the Goose Heltons of the world, the Boston Ironsides. Like, this is a product that can work for you and help you, whether it's just keeping you healthy enough to be able to work harder, or like this past season, I practiced 4 times a week. I was a practice player for the top open team in Milwaukee, MKE, and I was practicing with Cream City Crooks, who transitioned to being opening, and I played tournaments with, transitioned to being open, and I played tournaments with them. Like, you have to commit to just putting the work in, and this is something that can help you do that, because it helps you understand your body, and it keeps you on the field. And that's the most important thing. We all want to play Ultimate. That's the whole goal of this. You know, why a lot of us are striving, even watching this video, or, you know, looking up Tim Morrill on Facebook. Like, we want to be able to stay healthy and play more Ultimate. And that's what this program does for me. That's what, you know, it's helped me in a lot of different ways, just from mental toughness side of it, and our conversations with, like, being a captain and just being a player. Like, this year when we talked about, you know, I'm not going to be a captain. I want to focus on myself. And you were really open to that idea, and you helped me push through a lot of things, like mentally, like, you know, getting past some blocks. Like, I can do this. I can play at the open level. Like, switching to open versus mixed, there's a difference in intensity and physicality at times. Not saying that mixed can't, you know, be physical, because I've experienced that. But open, there's a lot more body contact. There's a lot more athleticism that plays into it, and challenging myself. But, you know, everybody out there can challenge themselves, and that's what I think this program brings to them. And just the ability to stay on the field and understanding your body.
Beautiful. I love it. All right, we're going to finish up here with what we call the speed round. We're going to think about it this way. We've got 4 portals: movement quality, speed and agility, strength and power, energy system development. Andy has a great, you've applied all of it, and we want to see what your favorite stuff is. So, movement quality. Favorite movement quality drill, go.
It's a tie between 2, because I have to do both of these where I either work out or play. The 4-way hip stretch and SLDLs. Like, those are 2 things, especially in a Sunday morning of a tournament, like getting those SLDLs, working out, like this tightness or anything, those have been my favorite. And adding in, like, this weekend with the band distracted stretches, those are big too. So, like, literally.
I liked your thought about the band distraction stretches. Before the finals this weekend, you were warming up with Jonathan Neely, one of our HBU athletes, and you're like, man, I feel a lot faster after doing this front side band distraction opener. Was that your first time doing that?
With the band, yeah. I mean, with a partner for sure. And it really helped me. Like, it was my first beach tournament, so being able to get that full hip extension and be able to feel fast on sand was important, because otherwise, if I was not bringing my knees up, I was just, like, playing in the sand, it felt like. And
man, was this guy a great cutter this week. And I remember that one point in the finals, you were just making these awesome cuts where you'd come in, you'd make the in cut, and then you wouldn't get it because they had great marks, and you clear out. And I remember you just kind of kept that going, and I'm like, man, Andy is lighting it up. Like, your defender was 10 feet behind you, and you just kept going, great hip extension. I remember after that point, like, I came walking onto the field, and I'm kind of looking at you, and you're like, kind of looking at me like, is he gonna, like, reprimand me?
I thought you were gonna yell at me.
Yeah, I was kind of coming at you like, and I was like, Andy, that was sick cutting. I love it. Boom, and you're like, yeah.
Especially for someone who feels them like as more of a handler-dominated player. Like, it was fun to be able to get that feedback on my cutting.
Yeah, and you were playing great in the handler role, but man, can you cut too? I love it. I absolutely love it. Okay, speed and agility.
Favorite speed agility has got to be the goose cone drill.
Goose cones.
I mean, just the amount of work that it takes to get through it, but you feel like the satisfaction of completing it, and like really get that good work to change a direction in. It's awesome.
Have you ever been able to do a full goose cone with toe drags?
I don't know the toe drag. Well, I think so. I think because like my tendency with crossovers in general is to drag the toe just from all the cueing in the past. I really got to work on getting more of the distance and like horizontal movement. But yeah, I tend to drag my toes at times on crossovers.
Nice, because the glute is the engine, and we need to get into full hip extension if we're going to utilize the glute.
You know it.
Strength and power.
Strength and power. It's tough. Like I really love deadlift. I've had some good experience with deadlift, but I think my deadlift prime was probably in high school when I was powerlifting. But hang power cleans are definitely my favorite strength and power. Like getting that full extension and being able to just move some weight. I mean, I hit a personal best this year of 225 for the hang clean. I almost got 235, but 225 was big. Like strapping those 2 plates on. Like I got in that powerlifting mentality. It was like, let's keep putting the weight on and let's keep seeing what we can do. And it was fun to be able to test that.
Dude, when I got that video, I was like, let's go. I think I called AJ in from the other room, like, AJ, you gotta see Andy. This is sick. He just hit 225. Because, you know, a lot of my distance coaching clients, we're not going to do 1RM testing. It's risk reward. But with Andy, he has done so much powerlifting that it's like, okay, let's do this. Let's see if we can get some good percentages. And we would have a week where it's like, this week is all about getting some numbers. And I remember that your last testing phase, because we've done 2 testing phases.
Yeah.
This last one, 225 hang clean. What was the deadlift?
385.
385, and this was traditional, conventional deadlift.
Conventional deadlift, not trap bar. Gym I was at didn't have a trap bar, so 385. I hit a bench of 205, a front squat of 250.
Boom.
And then we were doing the weighted chin-ups, I think, too, and I think I did about 50 pounds on a weighted chin-up.
Nice. Okay, now you said for speed and agility, you said goose cone. Then what is your favorite ESD conditioning drill, even though goose cone is technically conditioning?
It's technically conditioning. We were going to go to speed and agility, do the 5-10-5 then, but conditioning, I love 150 shuttles. I mean, I love the thought of 150 shuttles, actually going through 150 shuttles, especially with your work to rest ratios, like 2-to-1 or 1-to-1. Those aren't fun, but they are the best like recreation of how it feels to be running on an alternate field during a point. Like those like short bursts, like stop and start, change of direction, those have been really awesome for me.
Wonderful. Now, we actually have to go take you to the airport, but first we're going to stop by Salisbury Strength Conditioning, do a lift, me, you, and Goose. And Matt 9, hopefully, will lift with us today. Before we sign off, any kind of advice or anything that you want to say to the community?
I just want to thank everybody for like checking this out and supporting Tim in any way possible. Like, I would not be where I am without Tim, and there's a lot of other people that have helped me like develop sport-specific stuff, but as far as getting my body into a certain like shape, staying on the field, staying injury-free, I can't thank you enough. Like, I really appreciate all the broship that we've developed over the years, and I'm sure there's more to come, but everybody should really go check out mpfpt.com and really just commit to like what Tim is doing in this philosophy. It's really important to me, and hopefully it can help somebody else out too.
Well, thank you, Andy. I think the biggest thing has been like pretty formal client-coach relationship, and it's like, this dude is the truth. Like, Andy gets it. He's in for the long term. Let's bring him on to Humiliswag. Like, we don't invite a lot of outside athletes into Humiliswag. I mean, Andy's from Milwaukee, like a lot, we've never played together before this weekend. He comes in, fits right into the Jamley, fits right into our offense, plays great defense. Spent a couple extra days, got to hang out, go over to the new Frisbee house in Ocean Pines. It's just awesome to be able to actually, it's like, it's a dream come true for me to play with my athletes, because I was just coaching for all those years. And now it's like Beach Ultimate comes along and I'm like, man, I could play some Beach Ultimate tournaments, get good at this, and actually bring on some of these athletes and jam together. And that's the most special.
Yeah, it's been awesome for me too. I think when I landed and we went right to the gym, and working out with you and Goose like in person for the first time in 3 years, like to actually have you in the gym with me. Like, I've thought about that so many times. Like, man, I wish Tim was here in the moment to just give me a correction on something. And it finally happened, and this weekend was awesome. So I can't thank you enough.
Andy, the man.